Good afternoon, dear teachers. My name is Заборник Любовь Степановна. I'm an English teacher of Назарбаев Intellectual School of Physics and Math, Kokshetau City. So I am going to present you a lesson for the 7th and 8th graders on critical thinking. So the topic of our lesson is connected with birds and urban noise. And so we'll try to recognize arguments while developing and analyzing this topic. So firstly, I would like to introduce you to the learning objectives of the lesson. So by the end of the lesson you are to analyze similes and idioms about birds, practice reading for detail and summarize information from the text. You are to analyze and practice using expressions for discussion and debating. You will be constructing an argument, holding a debate. So firstly, while looking at the images of the birds, you should share your experience and answer the following questions. Which have you heard of? Which birds have you heard of? Which do you find in the wild or in Kazakhstan? Which species do you find in the wild in Britain? What do you know about them? So there are the pictures of the birds. So you should identify what is common and what is different between these birds. Some other pictures for you to analyze. Look at these pictures and try to tell us what do they eat. And about these pictures you should identify if they migrate to any parts of the world. And looking at these pictures, you try to understand what is their relation with humans, if they have any. Now I would like to make acquaintance you with the bird idioms. There are a lot of them, and by the end of the lesson you will try to learn some of the bird idioms. So you will be divided into groups of 3, and each group will choose one idiom involving birds. You have 5 minutes to write a definition for your idiom. Now write 2 new definitions which are false but sound as though they could be true. Each of the 3 students in your group should read 1 definition to the rest of the class. The rest of the class has to guess which definition is the correct one. So I believe that you will be working quite hard so that to cope with the task assigned for you. So, and the idioms. A cock and bull story. Next one. To spread one's wings. Then, a chicken and egg situation. A bird brain. To watch someone like a hawk. To count one's chickens before they are hatched. Birds of a feather flock together. And now you would be introduced to bird similes. It is quite close to the bird idioms, but there is some difference between them. So I would like to explain to you what simile means. A simile is an explicit comparison of 2 things, using the words as or like. For example, as free as a bird. So I would like to suggest you to analyze the following similes, bird similes. And you should highlight the closest definition of the simile. As happy as a cuckoo or lark. As proud as a parrot or peacock. As hoarse as an owl or a crow. As bold as an eagle or coot. As dead as a dodo or dove, as wise as an ostrich or owl, as scarce as a dodder or hen's teeth, as graceful as a hummingbird or swan. So I'll give you some time so that to identify the appropriate meaning of the bird simile. So now you are to make your own comparisons to complete the sentences below, using bird-related words. You will decide who has the best answer, as light as a or as thick as a. Finally, you will make up your own simile using a bird of your choice. Make the comparison as believable, as humorous as you can. So I believe that you will succeed in this task, working together in a group, so that to make up your own comparisons. So now I believe that you have learned a lot of ideas about birds, and now I'd like to provide a bird quiz. Try this quiz about birds. You may be surprised by what you learn. Be attentive. Don't be in a hurry. So the first question. People who keep and raise birds are called horticulturalists, ornithologists, aviculturists. You should identify the most appropriate option for the answer. Next one. People who keep and raise birds are called horticulturalists, ornithologists, aviculturists. So will you check yourselves if you are right? So the correct answer is aviculturists, who keep and raise birds. So the second question. Approximately how many species of birds live in the world? The possible answers. The first one, 5,000 or 6,000. The second, between 7,000 and 8,000. The third option is 9,000, 10,000. So I'll give you some time so that to choose the correct option. And now will you check yourself? The correct answer for these questions about how many species of birds live in the world, it is about 9,000 or 10,000. Next question for you to be answered is, what is the length of the smallest parrot in the world, the buff-faced pygmy parrot? And the possible answers: about 6 centimeters, about 7 centimeters, about 8 centimeters. So now you should choose the correct option. And now I will demonstrate the correct answer. So as the length of the smallest parrot in the world is about 8 centimeters. Next question. The most common bird on the planet is, and the suggested answers. It is sparrow, turkey or chicken. So now will you check yourself? So right here you have chosen chicken for the most common bird on the planet. So next question about the dodo. You know that dodo became extinct. It is extinct means the last one died in the 15th century, next the 17th century, and the last option is the 18th century. So now will you check the correct option? And you know that the last dodo died in the 18th century. Then a woodpecker can peck 10 times a second, 15 times a second, 20 times a second. So will you check yourself how many times a woodpecker can peck? It is 20 times a second. It's very fast. So now I would suggest you to read the text and analyze the main idea of it. Be ready. So, and the text is called as Birds at Risk from Urban Noise. Urban songbirds are risking their long-term future by trying to make their voices heard above the roar of traffic, says the observer. Research shows that males are trying to compete with urban noise by singing ever louder and at increasingly high frequencies, risking vocal injury. As a result of this perpetual shouting, their songs are becoming rougher and more chaotic, and therefore less attractive to the opposite sex, which reduces their chances of mating. Some species, such as robins, have taken to singing after dark when the city quietness down, but this disrupts their sleep patterns, leaving them stressed and overtired and makes them more vulnerable to predators. The difference between urban and rural birdsong is becoming so great that the two groups could now be unable to communicate, leading to inbreeding and a weakened gene pool, says Dr. Sue Ann Zollinger of the University of St. Andrews. Groups from small gene parts are likely to be less resistant to disease, she adds, putting them at an increased risk of being wiped out. So I believe that this text is quite useful for you, so that to increase your knowledge. And now, the task. The following task I'll suggest you to be done. So below you will see the sentences about the text Birds at Risk from Urban Noise. Some of them are true and some of them are false, and you should identify the correct options, which of them are true and which of them are false. But firstly, you should read the text attentively and understand the main idea. True or false? There are the following sentences. The first one: nowadays birds in towns are singing louder and at higher frequencies. True or false? The second one: bird song is important for successful reproduction. The third one: robins sing throughout the night. The fourth one: birds in towns sing in the same way as birds in the country. The fifth one: noise in towns and cities could make it more difficult for some birds to survive. So, will you check yourself? The first one is true, the second one is true. As for the third one, it is false. The same with the fourth sentence, it is false. And the fifth one is true. So, you know your words. Now look at the text again and match the words on the left with the meanings on the right. So I'll suggest you to look through the text once more, so that to identify the meanings for the following words. So in the left column there are the words from the text, and in the right column there are the definitions, which are structured randomly, scrambled, and you should identify the correct definition for each word. So the first one is urban, then perpetual, rough, chaotic, to mate, to disrupt, vulnerable, predator, inbreeding, gene pool, gene pod, to wipe out, and the suggested options of definitions. All the genetic material of a particular group, animal or bird that kills and eats others, to have sex, animals, birds, to exterminate, group that shares an almost identical genetic composition, to disturb, significantly, constant, the opposite of gentle, town, city is an adjective, reproduction of animals, humans in one small group, the opposite of orderly, easily attacked. So I'll give you some time so that to match their words with their correct definitions. Check yourself. So the first question is should be matched with I, the second with G, the third with H, the fourth with K, the fifth with C, the sixth with F, the seventh with L, the 8th with B, the 9th with J, the 10th with A, the 11th with E, and the 12th with D. I believe that you have succeeded in this task. So now, you are to create your own storyboard based on the text that you have analyzed before it. So you will be working in groups of 3 and illustrate the main ideas on the poster stated in the text for presenting them before the classmates. Don't forget to use the similes or idioms related to the verbs. I believe that you have managed to learn as many similes and idioms as you can connect with verbs. So now you are going to watch the video before preparing for some other activity. So, I believe that you have understood the main idea of the video. So, and the questions related to the video. What are these little kids doing? Is it typical for you to argue in such a way? What tools do you usually use for persuading your opponent? So now it is just time for us to prepare for debates. So I'll explain to you the rules, how you should behave while debating. You will have a chance to explore and practice the functional language of agreeing and disagreeing, persuading and clarifying opinions through debating. Being divided into 2 groups, you should write a list of rules how to behave yourself while debating. So as for the first group, you will be responsible for the requirements for the others to write down what you shouldn't do while debating. The other group will have some quite different task. You write what you should do while debating. Then, after discussing and illustrating the ideas on the posters, you will present the ideas before the class. Be ready. So, and I suggest possible differentiation. Less confident students are given a table with column titles. More confident students on their own define what titles for the categories might be. Still, you work in groups and explain to each other the meaning of all the expressions in case someone finds them new or is not sure about their usage. I believe that you have understood the task. And now please, good luck while doing this task. So, here I suggest you a table with the appropriate expressions for expressing your own points of view in the debates. So the first column illustrates how you should state your opinion and possible expressions. The way I see it, if you want my honest opinion, as far as I'm concerned, if you ask me, in my opinion. So the second column is connected with expressing your agreement while debating. You have a point there, that's exactly how I feel. I was just going to say that. I have to side with somebody. You should call the name or person to whom it is addressed to on this one. That's for sure. Next column is related to the expressions of disagreement. That's not always the case. I would say the exact opposite. No, I'm not sure about that. I beg to differ. Not necessarily. And the last column is linked to the words, to the expressions connect with interrupting. If you like to interrupt a person, you should use the following expressions. Sorry to interrupt, but if I might add something, is it okay if I jump in for a second? Can I add something here? Can I throw my 2 cents in? So I believe that all these expressions are quite useful for you and help you to conduct your debate in a proper and successful way. So now you will be divided into 2 groups. So the first group will be dealing with statement 1 and the second group with statement 2. Later on I will show you these 2 statements. In your group you should appoint a secretary. Then you will make a list of points you can use in your argument. Then edit your points so that your argument is strong. Allocate a point to each member of your group and decide who will speak first. Try to predict the opposing points of view from the partner of your group so that to be able to respond spontaneously. So each role in your group should be distributed equally. So, tick one of the statements below, the one that best represents your view. So, as I have told you before, you are assigned to analyze 2 statements. The first statement is, we should put a stop to economic development so that we stop killing animal species. The second statement sounds the following: we should continue developing our economies. The loss of animal species is inevitable. So now I will introduce you to the procedure of conducting the debate. So firstly, there are 6 of you sitting on the chairs in the circle. It is speakers. So they will be in the middle, inside the group. 6 students form the outer circle. They will be called as listeners. They will stand behind those who are sitting. Then, next step. Students of the inner circle who are sitting on the chairs have 1.5 minutes to formulate their own perspective on the issue discussed. It will be some kind of a monologue. They should be done in turns, one by one. Then you have 3 minutes to talk as a group, expressing your agreement or disagreement, asking extra questions and addressing each other. It will be some kind of conversation. Each student of the outer circle focuses on the speech of a person who is standing behind, paying attention to the way the speaker builds an argument, whether it is strong or weak. Use of appropriate expressions that I have given you before. Step 3. Listeners give feedback on what have been produced by speakers. Step 4. Students switch their roles. Go through steps 2 and 3 again. So they change their roles. And now I would like to introduce you to the observer's checklist. It is for peer assessment, which will be held by listeners, students in the outer circle. So firstly, you should write the name of a person whom are you going to watch. And you will monitor if this person uses the following expressions. I will remind you. For stating an opinion, it is the way I see it. If you want my honest opinion, as far as I am concerned, if you ask me, in my opinion. For expressing your agreement, your partner should use such expressions as, you have a point there. That's exactly how I feel. I was just going to say that. I have to side with somebody on this one, that's for sure. So for interrupting, your partner should use such expressions as sorry to interrupt, but if I might add something, is it okay if I jumped in for a second? Can I add something here? Can I throw my 2 cents in? And then, at the end of this checklist, you should watch and monitor if the learner, if a person who is sitting in the inner circle clearly states his or her opinion, and you should tick yes or no. Give the reasonable justification of the opinion, yes or no, and comments opponent's standpoints, yes or no. So now, after providing this activity, you should identify and understand how this activity affected your thinking, your opinion, noticeably or slightly. So, each of you are standing in a circle and try to take a position according to your viewpoint after this debate. You may change your viewpoint and take your position according to the perspective. So there are such positions as strongly agree, agree, neutral, I don't know, disagree, strongly disagree. So if you have chosen this or that position, you should justify yourselves. You should explain why you have chosen this position, what has influenced your own perspective. So now, after this activity, I believe that it is just time for us to monitor and to check if you have achieved all the learning objectives stated at the beginning of the lesson. It is to analyze similes and idioms about birds, practice reading for detail and summarizing information from the text, analyze and practice using expressions for discussion and debating, construct an argument holding a debate. So I'll suggest you this self-evaluation sheet for you to check if you have managed to do everything effectively during the lesson. So the first column is connected with what have I understood? Next column, what have I learned? The third one, how can I state my viewpoint with relevant arguments? And the last one, what haven't I achieved and why? You should give reasons if you have failed in some points. And I'll suggest you the following home task. It is connected with morality tales and fables based on the topic of our lesson about birds and urban noise. You should write a story, short story with a moral at the end. The moral can be one of the similes for idioms from activities 4 and 5, or another idiom connected with birds. Alternatively, your story can be a fable where the characters are changed into birds and animals and the ending has a moral connected with birds. I believe it will be not so difficult for you to cope with this task. And resources that I have used for creating this lesson. And this site where you can find a lot of resources on the lessons. So thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye.